Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. Today's tutorial is perfect for those sun-soaked days. We're making a long sleeve crochet sweater dress that doubles as a breezy beach cover-up. Made with the beautiful Suzette Stitch, it's lightweight, textured, and effortlessly stylish, just the thing to throw over a bikini or a dress for a coastal stroll. If you're new here, welcome. I share modern crochet patterns and tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday, so tell a friend, tap the bell, and subscribe so you never miss an upload. And if you enjoy this video, give it a big thumbs up or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to support the channel and keep these tutorials free. So without further ado, here's how to make your own Suzette Stitch sweater dress cover-up. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 455 grams of yarn. That's 1,020 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5.5 and 9 millimeter hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you'd rather be a plant parent or a dog parent. I'd rather be a dog parent, hands down. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows: chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small. You can adjust it for your size and explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this sweater started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 9 millimeter hook and start off by making an odd number chain that reaches the top of our shoulder down to where like the bottom of this cover up to be, keeping in mind that there will be a bottom band. I'd like for mine to be just a little bit longer, so I'm going to start by making a chain 65, and that's just about 22 inches or 56 centimeters. So now that we have our chain, we're all going to do our first Suzette stitch row. So we're all going to start by blocking off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then starting with that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert 1 single and 1 double crochet. So into that chain, we're going to insert, it may be a little hard because it is quite gappy, but we're going to insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, that is our single crochet. Then also a double crochet into that same stitch. So yarn over, into that same chain, insert your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, that is our double crochet and our first Suzette stitch completed. Now after every Suzette stitch, we are always going to skip the stitch right after, because that double crochet actually counts as that stitch. If we work into there, we'll accidentally be increasing. So we're going to skip 1, into that next, another single crochet, and into that same with another double crochet. Let's do this once more. Now after we've completed a Suzette stitch, we're going to skip that following stitch and into the next, insert with a single, and into the same with a double crochet, and we're just going to continue on with this until we all have 2 chains left. We've made our way down with our first row, leaving the last 2 chains. Now to complete the row, we're just going to put 1 half double crochet into that last chain. So yarn over, skipping that second to last, and into the last, insert with 1 half double. Now our row 1 is actually completed, and we should have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Now for this portion, it is going to be a repeat of this row. So we're simply going to chain 1, flip our work, and into the top of the last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert with our first Suzette stitch. So that is 1 single crochet and 1 double crochet into the top of the half double crochet from our previous row. Then skip a stitch, into the next, a single and a double, and we're just going to continue on with this, making our way all the way down until we have 2 stitches left. Now just as a really quick tip, every Suzette stitch set will be worked into our previous row's single crochet. So just to show you guys, since we have just completed 1 Suzette stitch, we are going to skip that following stitch, that is per usual, but we can tell that that's a double crochet from our previous row because it is a little bit taller. So skip that, into the next with a single and a double, and I'll meet you back when we have 2 stitches left. We made our way down with our row 2. Now from here, we're just going to close it off with a half double crochet like our previous row. So just as a really quick tip, it could look like we just have 1 stitch left, but that first stitch is just a little tucked underneath. So what we're going to do is yarn over, skip that second to last stitch, and into the top of that last, insert with 1 half double crochet. We should still have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Then all we're going to do from here is continue to repeat this row with no increases, no decreases until we now have a portion that can reach from 2 inches past the tip of our shoulder all the way until we're roughly 1 inch until the base of our neck. Then I'll meet everyone back right after an even number row. Then we can get started on the neckline together from there. So I have just completed my shoulder portion. I have a total of 12 rows. Now from here we're going to do our neckline. That's going to be pretty simple. We're all going to start by placing this up to ourselves and inserting our stitch marker into an even numbered stitch from the top. The top is going to be where our tail end is, or the opposite from where our hook is, into the spot that is roughly 1 inch beneath the base of our neck. Now I inserted my stitch marker into the 12th stitch from the top. That's just about 4 inches or 8 centimeters. Now we should all be along the bottom, so what we're going to do is our Suzette stitches all the way up, leaving 2 stitches right before our stitch marker. So we have made our way all the way up with our Suzette stitches until we have 2 stitches left right before our stitch marker. Now all we're going to do is close off the row with a half double crochet per usual. So yarn over, we're going to skip that second to last stitch and into the last, which is the one right before our stitch marker, insert with 1 half double crochet. And now our first neckline row is complete. Now just to get started on the following row, chain 1, flip our work, Suzette stitch all the way down, closing off the row with 1 half double crochet again. Then I'll meet you back. We have just completed our first 2 neckline rows. All we're going to do from here is continue to repeat these 2 previous rows. Again, no increases, no decreases, working our way across our chest until we are 1 inch past the other side of the base of our neck. Then I'll meet everyone back right after an odd number row, so that is along the top. Then we can work straight into the shoulder together from there. Our neckline is completed. We now have a total of 27 rows. This width is just about 12 inches or 30 centimeters. Now we're going to finish this up with our shoulder portion. So since we all should have ended right after an odd number, so along the top, we're all going to make a chain for the same amount of stitches that we skipped when we got started on this neckline. For those of you that have my numbers, I inserted my stitch marker into the 12th stitch from the top. So over here, I went ahead and made a chain 12. Then we're just going to do our following Suzette stitch row. Once we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1, then into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook. Simply do our Suzette stitch all the way down per usual, closing off the row with 1 half double crochet. Then I'll meet you back at the end of the row. So our first shoulder row on this side is complete. From here, we're going to continue on with our Suzette stitch rows, no increases, no decreases, for the same amount of rows that we have for our first shoulder portion. Once we have the same amount of rows, after that last row, do a chain up of 1 and cut. The entirety of my front panel is completed. Now I have a total of 39 rows. My width is just about 16.5 inches or 41 centimeters. Now from here, we're going to do the back panel. Now the back panel is going to be done exactly the same way as the front panel. So to do the back panel, we're all going to make the same chain that we made for the front panel's shoulder portion. Then all we're going to do is our same Suzette stitch rows, no increases, no decreases, making our way all the way across for the same amount of total rows that we have for the front panel. Once we have that completed, I'll meet everyone back so we can seam up the shoulders together. So once we have both our front and back panel completed, the next thing we're going to do is seam up our shoulders. So what we're going to do is place our front panel on top of our back panel, insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, yarn over, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every side row, working in through both the front and the back panel at the same time. So finding our first side row, this is mine right here, find that top loop within the front, same top loop within the back, insert and single crochet everything together. Again, next side row within the front, insert into that top loop, next side row within the back, insert into that top loop, single crochet, and that's it. We're just going to continue doing this, making our way all the way across. When we don't have any more side rows into the front panel shoulder left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. Then I'll meet you back. So our shoulders are all seamed up. Now we're going to get started on our neckline. So first things first, we are going to flip our work right side out, meaning the seams that we did for the shoulder are now along the inside. Then we're going to switch out to our 5.5 millimeter hook. Then insert our hook into any one of the stitches that we have within the neckline. I just inserted my hook into the stitch that I have that's nearest to one of my shoulder seams. Then from here, making sure that we're using a medium to loose grip, we're going to put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then we are going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So since I've inserted my hook into the top corner stitch, I'm going to make my way down first, just putting 1 single crochet into every stitch. Then I'll meet everyone back once we reach our first side row. We've made our way down with our single crochets, and now we have reached our first side row. Now what we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, starting with 2. So finding our first side row, I'm going to find that gap and insert with 1, same top loop with a second. This is my following side row, so I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 1. Once more, following side row, insert with 2, following side row, insert into that top loop with 1. We're going to continue making our way all the way around with our single crochets. Once we've slip stitched into that chain space, then I will meet everyone back. As a really quick tip, this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So when this is completed, try a piece on. If it's a little too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. Our single crochet row is completed. Now we're going to get started on the length of our collar. Now what we're going to do is start by making a chain the length that we'd like for the collar to be. I'd like for mine to be just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 8. So now that we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. That chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're all going to insert with a slip stitch. So insert, yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. Let's do that again. Into that next chain, insert, yarn over, pull through everything, and continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain, making sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row will be a little too tight to work into. We've just made our way down with our row 1, now we're going to connect it into the base. So connecting it into the base, we're going to find that next available stitch into the base, insert into there with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, still doesn't count as a stitch, flip our work, and now put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding that last stitch from our previous row, making sure that we're not working in through any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to insert into that back loop, or the loop that's furthest away from us, yarn over, gently pull through everything, and again, next stitch is back loop, yarn over, gently pull through everything. Continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. Then at the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work, 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch again. Then I'll meet everyone back at the end of our row 3. Our first 3 rows are completed. Now we're just going to connect it into the base the same way that we've been doing this entire time. So just finding that next available stitch, we're going to insert into that slip stitch. Does not count as a stitch. Then since we're here, just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. And all we're going to do from here is continue to repeat these 2 previous rows with no increases, no decreases, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back so we can seam it all together. So we have made our way all the way around with our collar. Now what we're going to do from here is seam it together, and this is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam. So we're all going to start by making sure the work is slipped right side out. Then we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitches of both the front and the back. Once when our hook is into the corner stitches of both the front and the back, we're going to yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and chain 1 just to secure. Now what we're going to do from here is an outside loop slip stitch seam, so finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert only into that front loop, first stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop, yarn over, and gently pull through all 3 of those loops. Once more, next stitch into the front panel, insert only into the front loop, next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook, and continue this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that we have seamed up our collar, we're ready to get started on seaming up our sides. So first things first, we're going to need to make sure the work is flipped wrong side out so that our shoulder seam is along the outside again. Then we're going to try on our piece. Then counting from the top, we're going to insert our stitch marker into any stitch that is in multiples of 3 for the width that we'd like for the sleeve to be. Now, if you insert your stitch marker lower, you're going to get a wider sleeve, or if you insert your stitch marker higher, you're going to get a thinner sleeve. That's completely up to you. I wanted mine to be comfy regular sleeve width. So I inserted my stitch marker into the 18th stitch from the top. That's just about 8 inches or 20 centimeters. Then we're going to insert our 9mm hook again into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We're going to insert our working yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now we're just going to do a single crochet seam until we reach our stitch marker. So finding our first available stitch into the front panel, we're just going to insert our hook, next available stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and single crochet. Again, next stitch into the front panel, insert, next stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet, and continue on with this until we reach our stitch marker. Once we do a chain up of 1 and cut, then repeat on the other side. So now that our sides are all seamed up, we're now going to get started on our sleeve. So making sure that our work is now flipped right side up, we're going to insert our 9mm hook again into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam within the armhole. Now from here, we're all going to make an odd numbered chain, the length that we like for the sleeve to be. I like for my sleeve to be right at about mid-palm, so a little bit longer for me. So I'm going to start by making a chain of 51, and that's just about 18 inches or 46 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do our following Suzette stitch row all the way down. So block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Into that chain that we blocked off, we're going to do our first Suzette stitch set, so single and double crochet into that first chain, skip a chain, then Suzette stitch into the next. Whoops. Then I'll meet everyone back when we all have 2 stitches left. We've made our way all the way down with our first Suzette stitch row. We should all have 2 chains left. All we're going to do is close off this row the same way that we normally do, so just 1 half double crochet into the last chain, and we should all still have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Now from here, we're going to connect it into the base. So connecting it into the base, we're all going to count up the next 2 available stitches. And depending on what side of the panels you're working on, it may be a little bit difficult to see, but all we're going to do is count up 1 stitch, 2 stitches. Into that second stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just a connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch up that following stitch into the base. Now this slip stitch into the base also doesn't count as a stitch, that's just to work our way up. Then we're going to flip our work and do our Suzette stitches all the way back down. So making sure we're working into that first stitch from our previous row, not into any of those slip stitches. We're going to insert with a single and a double, skip a stitch, another Suzette stitch all the way down, closing off the row with a half double crochet again. Then at the end of this row, chain 1, flip our work, Suzette stitch all the way down, closing off the row with a half double crochet. Then I'll meet you back just so we can connect it into the base together once more. We've made our way down and we have just completed our first 3 rows. Now we're going to connect it into the base together once more, and it will be done the same way as our previous rows. So just to do it together, we're going to count up the next 2 available stitches into the base. There's 1, there's 2. Into that second stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Remember that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just a connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base, flip our work, and repeat. And from here, all we're going to do is continue to repeat our Suzette stitch rows with no increases, no decreases, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back so we can seam it up. We have just completed doing our sleeve. Now we don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam it all together. And I actually already did my seam because it is going to be done exactly the same way as our side seam. So just to talk you through it, making sure that our work is flipped wrong side out so that all of our seams are along the inside, we're going to do the same single crochet seam. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut, then repeat on the other side. So now that both of our sleeves are completed, we're going to finish up with our bottom band. So inserting again our 5.5mm hook into any one of the sliders that we have along the bottom of our piece, we're just going to do a single crochet row. Now our single crochet row is going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochet into every side row, making our way all the way around, kind of like how we did our single crochet row when we got started on our collar. So go ahead and get this single crochet row completed, then I'll meet you back. But just as a really quick tip, make sure we're using a medium to loose grip just so that it doesn't cinch in too much on us. And then also this single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So once when it's completed, try your piece on. If it's a little too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. So now that our single crochet row is complete, we're now going to get started on the length of our bottom band. I'd like for mine to be just about 3 inches or 8 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 15. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do a chain 1. Now that chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And into that chain that we blocked off, or the second chain from our hook, we're all going to insert with a single crochet. From here, all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet into every chain. So we've just made our way down, putting 1 single crochet into every chain. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So how we're going to connect it into the base is actually going to be done exactly the same way that we did the collar. So just finding that next available stitch, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. Remember that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up that following stitch into the base. That slip stitch still does not count as a stitch, and flip our work. From here, we're going to be putting 1 front post single crochet into every stitch. So finding our first single crochet from our previous row, making sure we're not working into any of those slip stitches into the base, we're going to bring our hook down underneath that first gap and underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side. Then single crochet everything together. Again, in through that next gap, underneath the body of that following single crochet, insert, and single crochet. Again, underneath that next gap, underneath the body, through the other side, and single crochet. From here, we're going to continue with 1 front post single crochet until we're worked into our last single crochet from our previous row. So we've just made our way down with our row 2, that was just all front post single crochets. Now just to double check, we should have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Now just to close off this row so that we have a blunt edge and not this jagged edge right here, into the top of that chain 1 from our previous row, we're just going to insert with a single crochet. Now that single crochet we will not be counting as a stitch, that's just there to even out the row. From here, to get started on the following row, chain 1, flip our work. Now we're going to do front post single crochets all the way back down. Now like I said, that single crochet along the edge of the row doesn't actually count as a stitch, so inserting our hook underneath our first post stitch from our previous row, we're going to do another front post single crochet. So again, not into that edge single crochet, into that first post stitch, we're going to bring our hook underneath that gap, through the other side with a single crochet. Again, underneath that next gap, through the other side, single crochet, and continue into every stitch. We've just made our way down with our row 3. We should still have the same amount of stitches as chains that we made. Now we're going to close off the row. Now just as a really quick tip, since we're ending along the base, we do not need to close off the row with a single crochet because we're just going to go ahead and connect it into the base together. So just finding that next available stitch, insert with a slip stitch. That slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch, that's just to connect. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into there, also doesn't count as a stitch, and flip our work and repeat. From here, we're just going to continue to repeat these 2 previous rows, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, I'll meet you back so we can seam it up together. We have just completed making our way all the way around with our front post single crochet bottom band. Now what we're going to do from here is seam it up together, and this seam is actually going to be done exactly the same way as the sides and the sleeve. So just to talk you through it, making sure that our work is slipped wrong side out, we're going to do our exact same single crochet seam. When we don't have any more stitches left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. And now that our bottom band is completed, we are all done. The last thing we're going to have to do is simply weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, y'all. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch you on the next one. Bye.